Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome back to Respawn Station. My name is Kandula, and today I'm joined by Nick Sivak for another episode of pretending that this industry is thriving somehow. I think that's
Yep.
yeah. I think that's what we're going to rename this episode. There's going to be a lot going on in this episode. Hopefully, obviously, if you've listened to the podcast, you'll know that we've talked about a few layoffs in the past, and you know what? There's going to be a few we're going to touch on today, some big ones. Mainly, as the title suggests, it's on a different side of the game industry. It's on our side if we're getting close. You know what I mean? So we'll talk about all that, of course, later on in this episode. And let's see, episode 22. Yeah, we can't believe we made it another week. It's a joke. You got to listen to the last episode to figure it out. But with that said, I want to start this episode just like we start every episode of the Respawn Station podcast. Nick, what Call of Duty are you playing this time? That's what how we start every episode, by the way. Yes, I ask Nick what Call of Duty he's playing.
Yeah, I don't just play Call of Duty, but I'm in the middle of a big.
I don't always play Call of Duty, but I am currently only playing Call of Duty.
Pretty much, yeah. That's exactly what's going on. I'm, if I didn't state it outright in the last episodes, I am trying to catch up on all of the campaigns for the mainline entries, of which I only have a couple left. So, I forget if I was
now,
only.
Nick, I don't mean to disarm you right off the bat, though. As a host, I think that's kind of my job.
It is.
Are you counting Black Ops Declassified on the PlayStation Vita?
So I'm not.
So you're a coward. All right, we got it.
There's a couple of spin-off games that I could throw into this list, but pretty much I'm talking about main console entries. I would actually like to play that game, but I would need a copy of it and a Vita because I don't have either of those.
Or a PlayStation TV. I have one of those, Nick. I don't have a Vita anymore. I traded it in when I got my Nintendo Switch, but I do have a PlayStation TV, and you can play PS Vita cartridges. There's a slot that's just for PS Vita cartridges.
That's what I was going to ask you, is if it was supported, because I know a lot of games that use the touchscreen don't work on that.
Yeah, so. it's the ones that are like super baked in, like for example, like Uncharted, something, Legacy, Abyss, whatever, keywords you want to use. I forget what it is. Golden Abyss?
It's Golden Abyss.
Oh my God, dude, look at that. That one, I believe there's like puzzles in that game. That's not even the trackpad. It's like you have to hold the Vita up to the light, and then the paper shines through the light, and that's how you read the message. So there are cool implementations weird. That way. But so that one won't work. But I have played quite a few games on the PlayStation TV. It's also like the size of like a wallet. It's kind of crazy, but anyway.
They're like kind of uncommon now. I remember like stores selling them really cheaply, like when it wasn't doing well. But yeah, I've had like a couple come into my store before, and it's you don't see them too often anymore.
Fun fact, I think this was back when I used to work at GameStop. My manager at the time wanted to trade in his PlayStation TV, and at the time I was like, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool." And he's like, "Oh, really? Will you pay me like $20?" And I was like, "Sure, I guess. Yeah, I'll pay it. I'll get it for $20." And he's like, "All right, it's yours." So I have it. And it's just it's honestly like crazy because it's how portable it is. Like I used to like throw it in my bag when I was going to like college or dorm or whatever. Not dorm. I didn't live in a dorm, but like when I was in college, I just throw it in my bag and I can just take it around. So it is convenient. But anyway, let's get back to Call of Duty. That's what this is all about. So tell me about your Call of Duty escapades.
So last week, I don't think I had finished Black Ops 2. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, you are correct.
I was partway through it.
Yes.
So I did finish Black Ops 2. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Okay.
I really liked what, all the unique mechanics and
what ending did you get?
So the ending I got was he's clearly left an impact on me. I'm trying to remember now.
Who dies?
I captured Menendez.
Okay.
That's what I did. Okay. Yeah, Like I had the choice to either like, kill him or capture him, and I captured him.
Okay, that's fair.
Um, all I could remember was what I Snapchatted you
The
or whatever
fucking
of
the
the like
band,
dance sequence. Yeah, the
yeah.
Avenged Sevenfold sequence, which was that felt like really old Activision, which it kind of made me smile while listening
It
to
did,
that.
and there's also like part of like it's so weird. Sorry, I'm gonna keep derailing this conversation because I love Black Ops 2.
No, you're
I
good.
think part of the reason why Black Ops 2 has such a fan base is that I think it was one of those weird middle grounds of a Call of Duty that was trying weird new things that weren't inherently Call of Duty, but it was doing a lot of things that felt like, you know, at its core were Call of Duty. You know what I mean? It
Mhm.
doesn't take itself too seriously. I think Black Ops was like super serious. Like it takes itself very seriously. Black Ops 2 is like,
Right.
yeah, it's serious. There's some fucked up shit, like some super fucked up shit that happens in Black Ops 2. But then they
Mhm.
also, have that, and then they have like a bar scene with where it's like Skrillex is playing. Maybe
Mhm.
Skrillex is what the gaming industry needs. Black Ops 2, Far Cry 3. I mean, we need
Yeah,
to
we need
bring
to bring
Skrillex
back
back.
the dubstep gameplay sequence.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I dabbled a little bit with zombies,
Okay,
playing on Transit. Uh,
it's a good map.
I didn't love that
Oh,
map
you
though.
son of a bitch!
I played it a couple times and I was like, I kind of get the gist of it.
Did you
Like, I
play it
like
alone or
parts
with
of it
someone?
alone.
I think alone it feels pretty depressing because you're just like taking a bus, just
Mm,
yeah, it feels like going, yeah, it doesn't feel the same when you're because like when you're with people, like like some people can get off at like one place and be like, oh, I'm gonna go do this. It almost feels open world. It's not really open world, obviously, but it feels like
mm.
it's like has that kind of independence where you could do something on your own, and it adds a scale to it. But
I
yeah,
like the aesthetic of the map and everything, but I
sure,
didn't really love how it played when I was playing it.
that's fair.
Um, But yeah, that was pretty much Black Ops 2. I checked that one off pretty early this week. And right now I'm playing both concurrently,
Okay,
excuse me, Call of
dual
Duty
wielding.
3 and Call of Duty the original on
Damn.
PC.
Okay.
Um, which
Why are
it's
you
interesting
dual wielding?
because
Is it just out of like why not? Or
just trying to get through them all, basically. Like I was just like,
that's
well, I'm
fair.
already playing one, I might as well play the other one. Because I'm pretty close to finishing all of the mainline games at this point. Once I'm done with these two, I think all I have left is Modern Warfare 3, the new one.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay,
Um,
the new one. Sure, sure.
yeah,
Let me know when you get on that because I'm curious to try that one out because it's like a 5-6 hour campaign. So
mhm. But yeah, both are very interesting and occupy interesting points in the Call of Duty timeline. Because Call of Duty 3 is a console only game. It never got a PC port, as far as I'm aware. Um, Whereas most of all of the other ones are on PC. And Call of
so
Duty
from
the
what I've heard, that
original,
doesn't mean much because apparently some of them run like crap. But anyway,
yeah, and that I'll get into that with 3, but the first one's also interesting because I'm not sure if I have this 100% correct, but I feel like I heard a while ago that Call of Duty was originally built on like a modified Quake engine, like a
mm,
lot of FPS games are,
yeah,
and it definitely feels closer to like a retro shooter that we've been
really.
playing than like a Call of Duty. Like obviously it
So
still
you're
has
saying it
that.
as like it feels a little floaty? Like, is that what you mean, or?
No, it feels faster actually.
Well,
It's
I mean, sorry, not floaty as in like bungee gameplay floaty. I mean, like,
mhm.
yeah, like a bolt gun, like where you're kind of ice skating. Like floaty as in like you're not like
Yeah.
grounded on the like boots on the ground. You know what I mean?
Ice skating is a good way to describe it. It's not like it's not as crazy as those games. Like don't let me like say that and you immediately think of like Doom and things like that.
Right.
But it when you play it, it's just like the guns are very snappy. There's no regenerating health in the first game. It's only health kits,
Oh,
which is
okay.
also kind of,
So World War II
retro.
esque. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the game runs really fast. So like I've just been getting this weird, like interesting vibe where it's like this does feel more retro than any of the other games, but also it still does kind of feel like Call of Duty. It still has that snappy gunplay that all
Of
of the
course.
other games have. That one I'm less into right now. I
Sure.
played I think like an hour and a half of that. Call of Duty 3 I'm about halfway through. And Call of Duty 3 is interesting because that was my first Call of Duty. I actually played that on the Wii. Was my very first Call of Duty. And this I'm playing on the 360. I basically wanted, to go back to this game because it's like I haven't played it since I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
And Call of Duty 3 is really interesting because the Wii port is essentially the same game. Like there's cutscenes and dialogue that are like verbatim from that version. They're not like that drastically different outside of the control scheme. And so it's been kind of funny going back to certain missions and it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember that one actor that played Eric Sparrow and Tony Hawk is also in this game. Like just like little things that I remembered from when I played it so long ago. But yeah, as you alluded to, the performance is a little brutal in spots in Call of Duty 3. Like it's weird because I think it's an inconsistent frame rate because sometimes it's like really smooth and like it looks kind of interesting because they do like depth of field visual effects and stuff that some of the like later games I feel like kind of rein that back a little bit more.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Gameplay wise, like recoil is like way more hardcore in Call of Duty 3. Like I feel like I hip fire a lot more because when you aim down sights, like you're just going all over the place. But yeah, there are some areas where
here's a random kind of way to derail your conversation. So speaking of the note you were saying about how like some of the later Call of Duties don't really play with the depth of field, I think one of the weirdest qualities of Black Ops 2 is that, first of all, let me pull light back on my face. I think one of the weirdest qualities of Black Ops 2 is that it feels flat or like it's like everything's uniform. Like it doesn't have, I don't know, something about like Black Ops 2 specifically. I think maybe it was like they were trying to go for the futuristic thing and like that was like, oh, let's change it up. But like, yeah, it's not that everything's sterile because there are dirty surfaces. It's just like, I don't know. There's no depth of field, at least as far as I can remember, like that. I mean, in terms of like, there's not. I don't feel the scale.
Maybe not as pronounced.
Yeah, I don't feel like the scale of it as much as some other games that I've been playing recently. But anyway.
Yeah, I will also say with Call of Duty 3, they really love the explosive device minigame. In this game, like instead of just like slapping it on a thing like a lot of the other games do, you have to press a button to place like we'll call it C4. It's not actually C4, but like the equivalent.
Yeah.
You have to press a button to place it. Then you pull out this little primer that you stick into it and you have to twist the thumbstick in a circle a bunch of times. And then you have to press a different button to pull the pin on it.
Wow.
And they try to randomize it each time, I guess, to shake things up. So it's like sometimes you'll press A and then A again. Sometimes you'll press Y and then B on the second one. So it's like they randomize it. But I swear I'm halfway through the game and I must have done this like at least 10 times through these missions. Like they really get a lot of mileage out of that thing. But there's also like
someone spent a lot of time randomizing that mechanic, so they had to use the most of it.
There's like vehicle missions and stuff though that are really fun. There's like a tank mission that you get to fully drive around a tank and you're chasing this one enemy tank called the Black Baron, and so like there's a lot of cool stuff that game also has. It just kind of exists in this interesting period where like it was still old Call of Duty, but right on the precipice tech-wise of Modern Warfare. So Modern Warfare was about to completely revolutionize the game and everything. So it's been interesting going back to these two older ones and playing them both simultaneously and just kind of charting this evolution that the series has gone through the last 2 decades.
You should have like one of those, you should make like a chart, right? And it's like a timeline of all the games and then rate the campaigns out of 10, each one. And then like make a graph of like, see if we can track it. Has Call of Duty's campaigns gotten better, worse, or did they peak at one point and get worse?
You just do like a tier list, more or less, at that point.
Yeah, it's a more mathematical tier list. Yeah, I suppose that could happen. Yeah, we could do a tier list. Well, I mean, hey, I'm looking forward to hearing what you think about all these Call of Duties as you play them, because I haven't. I don't know. Obviously, Modern Warfare 3. I was here's the thing. I have been wanting. I go on and off of esports, like of watching esports. So like, I used to watch Call of Duty leagues. Weirdly enough, around like Call of Duty Ghosts, when I wasn't actually like in Advanced Warfare, when I wasn't actually playing the games too much, that was when I used to watch Call of Duty esports the most. But recently, I've been getting back into it with watching certain people like have watch parties and just kind of watching it on my own. And so first of all, the season like the Call of Duty League Champions, I believe, or something like that, is coming up later this month. I think it's like 2 weeks from now. And I was like, oh, you know what? Modern Warfare 3's on there. Let me on Game Pass. Let me hop on, and I'll get back into Call of Duty right as the championship's happening, so that I could kind of get back in the mood. Dude, I mean, it was like rubber and glue. I mean, I was like, just completely did not land on that game at all. And so, oh well, it doesn't matter. Modern Warfare 3. I'll play the campaign, and then I'll bounce off of that. Also, we don't talk about leaks too much, and I'm not gonna this isn't like a definitive, distinctive like kind of statement. But Black Ops 6 has leaked like crazy. I mean,
hardcore.
I don't even know how it's possible. I've seen so many. I follow Charlie Intel on Twitter, and I just see so many clips that they post. But one of the things, and again, I understand this is leaked footage, but it's one of those things where, like, in the gameplay showcase that they had, where they were like, and during their confidential, redacted E3, not E3 showcase, I was like, oh, interesting, omnidirectional movement. It's like, dolphin diving in every direction. Seeing the gameplay, seeing like regular people, not scripted like actors and like Activision and Treyarch use it, seeing just people pick it up and play makes me not want to play the game. Like, it is dizzyingly bad. Like, I mean, look, I'm sure some sweaty dude who will fucking have a field day with this thing, just doing 360s like nobody's cares. But man, as just a person who just wants to go into a video game to enjoy it, that looks absolutely atrocious. Like, if I thought bunny hopping in X Defiant was bad, this looks like it's the grandfather of that mechanic. I mean, anyway, absolutely crazy. That being said, let's talk about some things I have been playing that I've actually been quite enjoying. Let me pull up everything that I need to. So, let's see. I don't even know how many weeks ago this was, but a few weeks ago, I teased a game that had Outrage in the title. And since then, I have been playing the game on and off in the last week, more so on. But now I can finally talk about it. We've gotten some of those urgent stuff out of the way, those urgent embargoes out of the way, and I can talk about Outrage Fight Fest. Now, this game is essentially a party brawler where it's a 16-person beat-em-up / party brawler, and it's by Hardball Games. It just came out last month, by the way, like July 16th, and so that's how long I've been playing it, roughly about 3 weeks or so. And the idea is that you take part in these short, chaotic sessions of either battle royale or team-based, kind of like team deathmatch type of game modes. Not everything's team deathmatch. Like, there's like pain points, which is essentially like TDM, kind of in terms of like, instead of kills, it's points. So the amount of damage you do will give your score for your team. I feel like I pitched that fucking atrociously, but we'll actually, here I'll make it easy on you guys, for everyone listening. I'll pull up the gameplay so you guys can look at it. So much like XO1, where I don't have to describe anything. I can just be like, look, just there it is.
Basically, is just whichever team did the most damage.
Yes.
Would score in that one.
And there's like crate grab, where essentially you grab crates, as the title would say, and you move them to kind of your home base, where then you can score points, and the team that has the most crate grabs wins. So those are the game modes, but the kind of the core mechanic, right? It's a beat 'em up, but the core mechanic here is the more damage you do, the more rage you build up, and the rage comes out as like little sparks out of the opponents, and then you absorb them. And then as you increase your rage meter, you end up growing bigger. And there's like essentially there's 3 sizes. So there's like the first size that you start off as like a at the start of the game, and then as you keep going, you get a little bit more buff, and then you like fucking Hulk out for the third one. And then if you keep building the rage after you Hulk out, you can get these ultimates, where they're either like, a ground pound that like blasts people away, some like buffs that, make you do more damage, or like a ball around you. These are all kind of different things you unlock as you play. But the core thing is, the more you play, the more you beat people up. That's so bad. The more rage you get, and the more you kind of grow as a character. And that's the general kind of spin that maybe there's like the twist to get you into this game. Now, I've been, like I said, been playing it for a few weeks, and in the last week especially, I've been playing it a lot. And one of the things I will give the game credit for, because I always have this feeling whenever I play a multiplayer game, whenever I'm reviewing a multiplayer game, especially an indie multiplayer game like this one, player count is so important. And obviously they can put in bots, and like to a certain degree that's fun. Like it's fine to do that and kind of fill out the lobbies, but it's really not, it's not going to be fun if there's just all AI lobbies, all bot lobbies. At that point it's just a private match I'm playing by myself. Luckily, even though it's been a few weeks, the game's still doing pretty well. I don't take too long to get into games. In fact, I'd say one of the strongest points about this game is how fast you can get into a game. I mean, into at least the pre-lobby, because, it's one of those, multiplayer games where instead of just sitting at a lobby like menu screen, you're actually in like a little waiting room where you can beat people up and kind of, mess around a little bit. And the time it takes to boot up the game and to get there is like within 30 seconds you can get there. And then, you have to wait a few, like a minute or two to get everyone into the game, like 16 players into the game, and then it'll start the main match. But still, that's a very big plus point. But that being said, like there is a player base here. I'm not just spotting like, Bob or Robot One, like those kind of names. Like these are actual other players that some of whom like I've seen, because it is a pretty small community. So as I'm playing more and more, I'll spot like, oh, there's that guy that fucking killed me the last time I played. And you can kind of, get those kind of things. But so far, I have to say, easy to pick up and play. And I've also been, to kind of emphasize that, I've been playing this on the Steam Deck, and it is very playable on the Steam Deck. I don't know if it's necessarily like certified or verified on the Steam Deck, but it is like, I mean, you could nitpick, but it is very smooth and very fun on the Steam Deck, just picking this thing up and playing it. Now, like I said, there's 2 different kind of branches to the gameplay here. And that's the only 2 things, by the way, that the game kind of really offers. It's either the Battle Royale, where you can play solos or duos. And the concept, if you've played a Battle Royale, it's the same. You load in, and again, solos or duos. And like there's 3 rounds. And so if you make it through the first round, you go to the second, et cetera, et cetera. And then the third round is literally just like a 2v2 if you're doing duos. And by the way, not to brag, not to take away from this game or from this discussion, I'm apparently phenomenal at this game, Nick. Okay, I am constantly winning. I mean, if I could get tired of winning, Nick, it'd be in this game. And again,
I hopped on the
account
and played a couple of matches.
Oh yeah,
and on 2 of my matches, I also was like MVP on the team.
Hell yeah! I was just playing one of the Pain Points. Actually, I was playing Pain Points right before a stream, and I had like the same amount of pain points as like almost like an entire team that I was playing against, which was great for my ego boost. But that being said, everything that's how I'm saying everything I'm about to say is totally real. so along with the battle royale, there's also the TDM. Now the TDM has a few different modes. You don't actually pick, you just kind of load in, and then it'll cycle through a few of the game modes. So it'll go through like, pain points one time, and then crate grab another time, and then rage bank another time. And I think that does, it does, to the game's credit, work well in terms of not feeling too monotonous. I think for me, in my headspace, I always like playing multiplayer games, usually like Call of Duty or first person shooter. I like to go for, like, I like to pick the game modes I'm playing specifically. Like I'll do, TDM, I want this, I want kill confirmed, I want domination, whatever. I'm in the mood for this, right? This one, it's a little bit more random what you're getting into, but it also doesn't make you super real, like, or it doesn't make you super aware of the fact that there's not a lot kind of content variety in this game. There are unlockable stuff. So like I was saying, the special ability that you have, the more you play, like getting to level 3 unlocks the second ultimate ability you can get. And then also, like, as you get to level 5, you'll unlock some other additional costumes and stuff. Gotta be honest, most of this stuff is pretty underwhelming. And like, the abilities are fine. There's like 4 abilities you can unlock, and they're good in terms of they are a variety of abilities, like of unlockable abilities, but like the costumes don't mean anything, and it doesn't really entice me to be a guy dressed in a dinosaur onesie versus being a dude with a afro and a beard. Like I'm not.
Yeah, I think what you're describing there, at least in the couple matches that I played, like, I think a lot of the character models don't look entirely interesting. They look like a bit generic, where it's just kind of like regular kind of stylized cartoonish characters. Like, I'm not going to say it's like, cartoony animated, but like things like Fortnite and like we've seen in a lot of games, it's like, stylized humans. And like, it just didn't really stand out to me. I really liked the way the UI looked in the game. I thought the UI looked very clean. But the stuff like in the actual game screen, I was just kind of like, yeah. Okay.
And I think part of that, like, leads into the fact that during like the gameplay, when you're in the thick of things, it can maybe, again, it's in like in the trailers you might not be able to see it as much, but in the early, where we are in the official launch of the game and real people are hopping in playing it, and not everyone's going to have those crazy unlocks. Leveling up does feel a little bit slow for me. At least kind of just a general point. But the thing I'm trying to say, though, is that it doesn't feel like there's a lot of visual variety. Like it is, the characters are colored differently based on the team you're in, and it's like very poppy colors. Like, so it's like green, pink, blue, orange, like yellow, like those kind of things, purple. So you do get a little bit of that kind. Like, that's the only real way to see the customization in terms of like, or not customization, because you don't really customize it. It's like the other players, the separation between the 2 teams, the 3 teams, 4 teams, whatever you're playing against. So the costumes don't mean much to me, and I just kind of end up focusing on the colors anyway. Like, whatever color I am, like that's the costume I have on in my head. So yeah, it's a little bit of a hard thing to sell, of like, hey, get in, play more to get these characters. Like, I'm not enticed to play more because of the characters and unlocking the stuff. I'm more interested in playing more because I think the core gameplay is pretty fun, just casually. And like I said, this is a beat 'em up mixed with a slash. I literally have it in my notes, slash party brawler, so I've been saying slash every time. But it's not too complex. Like, it's not a deep fighting game. It's not like a Street Fighter or anything where you can do crazy combos. You can certainly do combos, and as you're playing through the early part of the game, you actually have pop-ups on the screen that tell you, hey, like, try this combo out like 10 times, or try this combo out 10 times. By the way, now that I'm realizing that Nick has played the game, I think he may have gotten some combos, because I remember it was like 3 out of 10 for the longest time, and I can't pull this combo off where it's you hit X, X, and then B to like toss someone over your head. And I go back in today and it's at 6. So Nick, you've somehow doubled my score. I tried all game for the last 3 games and I could not get him. But anyway.
Yeah, I actually had some quick thoughts on the gameplay that I wanted to share because
Yeah,
like I haven't played as much as Yusri. I really only played like a handful of
sure.
matches,
Yeah.
but um on the simplicity of the gameplay, I do think it's a little bit too simplistic. Um I think that because like you were saying, there's like, a throw combo, there's like a light punch combo and like a kick combo, and then you have like a special ability. But that's kind of all that I really experienced playing the tutorial. Hmm. And yeah, and the thing that I don't like about it is there is like hit stun out the ass in this game. Like if you're getting hit, like you basically just have to stand there until the other person's combo is done because like there's nothing you can really do to answer that unless you're like dodge rolling away from it. So I do think, yeah, pretty much. I do think that this game would really benefit from either like a block or some sort of like a reversal move to try to like, make those fights a little bit more dynamic because like I get that it is mostly like a party brawler, but it really just kind of felt like no matter what mode we were playing, it was just a bunch of people mashing together until the score was like, okay, we're done. Or it's like in the example of like the crate game, you have to take these crates back to your team's base, right?
Yep.
And it's like at a certain point in the game, like I just ignored all the other players and would just go grab a crate and run it back. And it's
You know,
like
that's I think
we
that's
won, like
what
it
so
worked,
many
but
people focus on, and it's funny because when I play crate grab, I'll often my strategy has become to just stop people from scoring their own because it becomes almost like this
Mhm.
autonomous thing. Everyone's like, "All right, sir, hello, let me just go to my crate," and like just they're just moving
Yeah.
like people don't even attack people. They're just trying to build an economy of crates. So yeah,
Mhm.
my role has kind of become a disruptor in that part. But no, I totally agree with you. I think block button, like that was definitely a note I had as well. Adding some sort of a block feature. I think to reverse off of what you're saying as well. Like yeah, like for me, whenever I get hit, you do kind of get that stun where you can't do much. So like you essentially you either roll out of the way or you have to you're eating a combo. Like you have to take that
Uh-huh.
combo to the face. So the other side of that though is that when you like if you're the person hitting the person that you do a combo on, they hit the ground after the combo, and then they have like they're like invincible, quote unquote, for like a few sec like for a second or two. So it's not something like you like essentially. At least from the way I've experienced the game, and Nick, I don't know if you've kind of feel the same way or if you had the same experience, but like when someone's on the ground, like if you hit someone, do a combo, they're on the ground, they have the advantage to come back up and hit you easier because like essentially the moment that they hit X and like, start engage the attack, they're out of that whatever invisibility for timing, or
Mhm.
invincibility, not invisibility, invincibility timing of like being downed. But as the player that's standing, unless I guess I suppose if you're really good at the timing, which I'm clearly not, but um, it feels like I'm always getting the lower hand there until I kind of like back out and then have to go back in. And so one of the things I've
Mhm.
seen a lot of people that the strategy, I think the meta here that I've seen a lot of people use in especially like the battle royale stuff is they'll like do a combo on someone until they're down, and then they'll just dip to another player, do another combo on them, and then come back, do a combo back. Like so it's almost like you have to manage multiple people at the same time. I
Mhm.
think part of that, this whole thing, right? And after saying everything, I do kind of understand some of the reasoning why they do the things they do in terms of design because they are trying to make this as accessible as possible to as many players. Like there's not like you don't have to feel intimidated to get into this game. It's really easy to pick up and play. Like if there's depth here, I'm like I said, I'm destroying in this game, and I have not captured the depth. Like I'm not just button spamming, but I'm definitely like like I know a few of the combos, and I'm spamming those combos in a certain rhythm type of thing. But
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely not like an in-depth game that you really have to like understand and get into like the timings and the keyframes and all that stuff, the iframes and e-frames. But but that being said, I think it's a little too easy, a little too simple. I think it could benefit from a block button, but for the fact of like how they're making players, when you go down on the ground, you can't take a hit, so you can't just keep getting comboed constantly. That kind of stuff I think is just for beginners to not feel scared. So I totally get it. I just feel like that's a little weird. But that being said, one of the weird kind of thoughts I had playing through the game and kind of synthesizing my thoughts down to notes that I can eventually write a review for. You can check out the review on respawnstation.com once it's done. It kind of reminded me of those like Slither.io games. I don't know if you've played those. There's like it was quite popular. I think there's like Hole.io is another one, but like these IO games that were essentially you you start off as like a little tiny worm in Slither.io, and then as you're playing, you eat these little things. You eat other worms, and then you grow bigger. But then I think in similar to that game, what tends to happen here, especially when you're playing the big battle royale stuff, is that essentially players who are like who've hulked out, people like the small guys avoid them. They're like, oh shit, I'm not going near that guy. You can't even you can't grapple the big guy, but the big guy could certainly grapple you. And here's a really easy pro tip, guys, if you haven't thought of this already. As you're playing through the battle royale stuff, there's a circle that just kind of shrinks to kind of keep players confined and make sure the action's kind of continuing. You can grapple people and then throw them into the fuck out of the ring, and they either die or they have to come back and they take damage in the process. So, and if you want to be a real douche, you can grapple someone, throw them out, and then as they're recovering, pick up an object and throw it so they can't come back in. It's very satisfying to do that, but not that I've done it because I'm not a douche. But if I were to do it, it sounds pretty satisfying. But no, overall, though, I have been enjoying my time with Outrage. It's one of those games I can easily pick up when I'm just like chilling on the couch, just putting on random YouTube videos or just want to button mash a little bit. It's fun. I am winning enough to for it to be entertaining to me as well, of course. But I think it's very simple. Also, it's important to kind of mention this game's only $10, so it's not like obviously it's not a big full price title, but it's not even like a $30, $20 title either. It's $10, and I think for $10 you're getting a decent little party game that you can boot up with a few friends and play. It's an easy recommendation. I just want everyone to understand what it is. Like it is simple. It is it doesn't have, as we were saying, block. It's not supposed to be technical. You're not going to find depth here. Look, if you're finding depth here, I would love to have a conversation with you because I don't see it, man. I don't see it.
I think under the the situation that is, if you're like with a couple of friends or whatever, or maybe you guys were like streaming it one night or whatever, like I think it's a good game for that, where you don't have to pay attention really. If you're looking for like a like you were mentioning, like a more meaty multiplayer experience, I don't think that this is it. But just something casual and fun to like throw on for a little bit, like I think that it works fine for that.
Yeah, and it takes I don't want to say it takes inspiration from. It's a party brawler, and so I'm going to say that it's like in the vein of like something like Fall Guy, or sorry, not the Ryan Gosling movie. Not that one. The Fall Guys, the game. It kind of feels like that in terms of, obviously, you're these kind of round-based mini games and last one standing type of thing. But there's, I think what Fall Guys has, and I'm done with my review. This is kind of just a casual conversation. But what that game has is the style is so striking, and here it kind of like it blurs together, and it is it does have a different angle, right? Like the weird, not isometric, but like the little top-down angle is a little bit different than a regular like Fortnite or something. But it does have a pretty, just like standard. Like it doesn't look it's not like often striking visually, other than the menus, which is again weird. Like the menus are super like easy to navigate. Like everything's like snappy. You get where you want. That's great. But yeah, it's weird. It doesn't. It's not quite worked out. But again, look, I hope people keep playing it just because this is one of those games, and I guess it's a multiplayer game in general, so it's kind of how it is. But they will die in terms of like with player counts, and then it just becomes just depressing after that. I mean, one of my favorite games this year that I really enjoyed. We didn't get to talk about it on the podcast because it was back in January before we started the podcast. But United 1944, I absolutely loved that game, and it was so like it was like the first time I'd played a game like that, and going from that to like a month after release, every time I boot up the game, there's no one on the servers. Like it's it really sucks because I want some excuse to play it, but it's not a single player game at all. It's a multiplayer game through and through. So yeah, it's one of those things. But anyway, no more depressing stuff for the rest of this episode, guys.
Nice.
Not a single sad thing. Oh shit, it's me. I'm gonna have to keep talking.
Well, I was gonna say I actually have another one for you. If you want
shit, yeah, go ahead. Let's tag in.
This is a just a short, quick thing. This is a as organic of finding a game as possible. I saw a tweet. And I was like, oh, that looks cool. So I wishlisted the game on Steam because it's in early access, but they had a demo available.
Okay.
So I went ahead and downloaded that. It's a game called Aero GPX.
Aero GPX. What a name. Okay.
This game is essentially, so Nintendo's not going to make F-Zero, we'll do it. There's a couple of these games out there already, but Aero GPX is very specifically going for that F-Zero X on the N64 kind of look. It feels very similar. It's a hover car racer. You even have all these different styled characters that you can select from, like the original F-Zero. It's really fast. You can do what you're seeing on the trailer there. You can hit a button to do a spin attack and like knock other cars around the arena. There's a speed boost that gets unlocked partway through. Yep, this is basically like their Big Blue homage where it's just a giant cylinder. But then it also does cool stuff like this where there's like these, flying sections, which you didn't really do in F-Zero. F-Zero is mainly all just on the track, but like if you want to do shortcuts, right, you can like manipulate the gravity and the speed to like fly a little bit in that game. But this game, it has a little bit more intention behind it.
Huh.
Yeah, I think this game is still, like I said, it's in early access. I think it's still fairly early, but the demo had a Grand Prix Cup, which had 5 different maps in it, 5 different races. And then there's also like time trials and stuff like that. So it's still very early, but just from playing it a couple times, it definitely scratched that F-Zero itch. I've played a bit of the F-Zero games. I played the original on Super Nintendo. Obviously, I grew up playing X, which I have like a soft spot in my heart for. I'm very nostalgic for that game.
Yeah.
And then I've played a tiny bit of GX, which was the GameCube one, but that one was too hard for me as a kid, and I haven't gone back to it since. But yeah, this game, it just is like a hyper fast racing game. Like it's pretty much it's new F-Zero, and like I said, there's a couple different games like this out there right now where it's like it's indie Star Fox, it's indie this, indie that, and I think it's like well, I mean, nobody else is doing it, so
I'm curious. This does look really awesome. Have you played Redout at all?
No, that's one of the other ones that I've heard of, like, similar to F-Zero ones. That one, and I think there's one other one that I know that's pretty well known.
I'd recommend, for anyone who's, this is my segment of like this, try that for this episode. If you like F-Zero, then try Redout 2, which I think just came out last year or something. It's It's very similar in terms of gameplay, but like the actual the graphics are a different level. Like I mean, it features different type of graphics. It's not as stylized in terms of like the retro style or like the cell shaded that Arrow, what is it? Arrow
GPX.
Jesus. Yeah, it's not quite as like cell shaded like that, but yeah, definitely check out Redout. It's one of those things. Here's a look. We're very candid on this podcast, okay? I remember now I'm not going to say it. The game I was talking about, but we got a code for a game that was actually, this was not to review, it was to stream a game that was similar to the games we're talking about here. And as I was playing it, you know, and this was when we were first starting, so like any game we got for streaming, I would also review. And because we had to double up, it's content, Nick. And I remember like I had, you know, gotten my thoughts on it because we got the code early, and then I was like, okay, release day, let me go play the game, but like on stream, I'll start a new game. And I had a developer join me in the chat. And as the developer's like, yeah, you know, I worked on the lighting for this game. I'm like, wow, the lighting's cool in this game. It's immediately come across a game-breaking bug where I was like, I can't progress. So it's like 20 minutes of me playing this while this guy's in chat. I'm like, God, dude, I don't know what to do. I mean, like, this is broken. This is like, so. Shout out for that person for taking it so lightly, understanding that we were doing it live, but yeah. Anyway, fun little distraction. Now, guys.
But yeah, if just to put a bow on it, if you're looking for a cool F-Zero type game, definitely keep an eye out on Arrow GPX. It's a lot of fun.
Does it have a date?
I have no idea. Like I said, even when I won the GP, he didn't have, or they didn't have the results screen implemented yet. So I'm not sure how far out this is, but definitely one. If you're an early access person, keep an eye on it.
Well, there you go. Now, guys, while Nick is living in the past, trying to relive the glory of F-Zero, I'm out here in the future, okay? I'm trying to be like my hero, the main guy from Ready Player One. And so I've been playing VR games. Now, I've actually been playing a decent amount of VR over the last year, because as soon as PlayStation 2 VR dropped, you know I had to pick up the first PlayStation VR. I mean, it had to happen. Mm-hmm. So I picked up, along with the VR headset, a few other games along the way, and oddly enough, I have like 15 or plus hours in box VR, because I use that for like working out, and it was just a fun game to kind of get myself moving. And recently I was like, I have not experienced a true cinematic story in VR, you know? And so I decided to pick up Blood and Truth, which came out a while ago. It's from London Studio, and it's a PlayStation VR exclusive VR game. And
R.I.P. London.
Yes, rest in peace. There's going to be another studio we're going to talk about that today. But before we get there, so I'm about, let's see, 4 hours into this, and I think based on what I've seen, I have like a few missions left. So, and as you'll see from my thoughts, the story is not what matters here. This is one of the, like, I'm just going to say right off the bat, one of the best VR experiences I've ever had. It is fucking sick. Like, in terms of like when, you know, granted, I'm playing this, again, it's PlayStation VR, so it's, you know, Gen 1 stuff. And also, I'm using my like spare PS4 for this. I play on the PS5 and Xbox Series X now, so I didn't have anything to do with my PS4, and so it's all hooked up to the nest of web or wires that has to be for the PSVR setup. But that's how I've been playing it on the PS4. I believe if you play on the PS5, there's increased resolution, but even without that, I'm just playing it as is, and it is. Oh man, it's so cool. First of all, I think this whole game, this whole experience, was really designed around VR. Like in terms of not obviously it's a VR game. I mean, it was designed as like almost like a tech demo, like a fancy tech demo. I strongly believe that because it is. There's so many different things you do in the game, but to set the stage, all right. The story, because that's what you guys are all here for. The story is about this guy. His name's Ryan. All right, he used to be in the army, but then he was called back home for some stuff, and some people died, and now he's got to do stuff. I'm being vague because it's not like look. I actually do know some. I am following the story to somewhat of a cohesive degree. It's just that the story is so basic that you could guess story beats, and those story beats would happen. Like it's very by the books. The writing is also very by the books. Though to be fair, the acting is like really good too. Like the writing might not give them a lot to work with, but the actors are good enough to kind of elevate it to their own.
Is it camp or is it serious?
It's serious. It tries to be serious. Again, there are some jokes, like I have to imagine jokes, because there's one point in you
that's
like,
a good sign if you don't know.
well, there's a one point where damn Nick, I can't believe I'm admitting this on stream. All right, so there's a part of the start of the game where you're in a car with someone, your brother, and you just came back from the army or whatever. He's like, "Yo, dude, let's go." First of all, it's also in it's in UK, so yeah, bro, let's go. They're doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting in the car next to him. You're kind of like talking as he drives, and he's like, "Dude," and he hands you a vape, and you pick up the vape, and I was like, "Well, I have to," and I put obviously I have the headset on, and I put it up, and Nick, the fucking ball at the end of the VR headset touched my lips, and I was like, well, I have to do it now. So I was like, and I took a hit, and then I took such a real hit that I started coughing, and then smoke comes out of my character's mouth in the game. I'm like, this is immersion I've never experienced in a game before. It was incredible. But also there are some stuff in the game, not vaping included, which by the way, vapes are one of the hidden collectibles in the game. You can go like,
oh my
there was a time, there's one mission where I was like sneaking, sneaking through this area, and I was trying to do something. I was trying to grab something on the table, I think, and I was like, oh shit, I can grab this handle of this drawer in front of me, and so I pull the drawer, and there's a vape inside. But no, so okay. To really say it though, this is super like immersive, not just because it's like, a general. It's obviously it's VR, so you're in it, but it does this weird thing I hadn't experienced in VR before. And for anyone who wants the context for that, I've played again Box VR. I've also played Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners, which is also a really good VR game. It's just that it's a lot more meaty. Like it's like, I think it's like a 10-15 hour campaign, whereas this is again like a 5-6 hour campaign. And so I am close to the end of it, which is why I'm able to talk about it pretty firmly here. But one of the weirdest things is that, like, I'll be, for example, there's a scene where you have to be, you're in a room just chatting with your family, a few people that and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, kind of, oh shit, I punched my desk. And I did that in the game too. And I'm just sitting there, looking around, and I realized that like it's the most natural kind of conversation that I've felt in a video game, where I was like looking at someone who was talking, and then I look over this way, and this person's also like, like looking at someone else, and then they look at me, and I'm like, oh shit, like, and then there's also eye tracking. So like if if you do this, like the characters also look at you like wherever you are, so it feels like kind of more direct, and that stuff is like, I mean, really put me in the headspace more than any of the writing did, first of all. But then on top of that, it's designed to be like I was saying, a tech demo for what VR is capable of. And one of the things that I think is brilliant about the game's design is that they have essentially hidden. Okay, so for example, the vape I was telling you about, that's one of the hidden items you can get. And apart from just, having another vape you can collect in your warehouse, like if you're safe house, you can literally go and look at all the vapes and other stuff you've collected. But along with that, every time you get a collectible of some sort, you get a star. And those stars are how you unlock like attachments for your weapons. So like, that's part of the mechanic. But then also another way to get stars is around the map, like literally just randomly placed around the map in weird nooks and crannies are these bullseyes. And if you shoot those bullseyes, you also get a star. Both of those combined, I think, is absolutely genius because it motivates you, gives you a reason to look around and kind of like really take in the scenery much more than any other kind of VR experience I've had. Oh, what else have I played? I've played Super Hot as well. I stopped fucking talking in the middle of the list I was giving. Rush of Blood, I also played that. The Until Dawn like roller coaster thing. So I've had a few VR experiences under my belt, but because of the way that this game is designed, I'm looking around it, I'm feeling more immersed in it, and like some of the bullseyes are really like, you'll miss them if you don't have your like gun ready or you're not like fast enough or whatever. And yeah, all those combined, both those I think combined, I thought was just a really cool choice. But also just to explain the gameplay a little bit, because I realize I'm just talking this as if like it's a regular game, but for people who don't know. So you have two holsters by your side, left and right, and then on your chest is like what the reload thing, and then behind you have like on your shoulders you have two more holsters. So you can carry 4 weapons total, 2 small and 2 big, and they essentially, I mean, it's all really intuitive in terms of like when you put your controller by your hip, it kind of has a subtle vibration, and then you can press R2 to pick up the weapon, and then you're shooting. The same thing with the stuff in the back. When you reach back behind your shoulder, you'll feel a small vibration. You can press R2, and then you have that weapon. It has let's see. Oh, the reload is you essentially tap your chest, like you grab the ammo from your chest by pulling your, again, you'll feel a vibration, I believe. Now I'm second guessing myself about the reload, but either way, you grab the ammo from your chest and you put it at the bottom of your weapon. It's not like super detailed where like you have to take out the magazine and then put it back in. Like it's not that. You just put it in your magazine and then you have a new mag. You're shooting. There's a few kind of other gameplay quirks that you can have where, for example, if you're if you have your controller and you press triangle and then like flick your controller, your character essentially like twirls the gun around like the finger, and then when you stop it, like it catches the gun, and then if you press I think square or one of the other face buttons, it gives you random like hand finger signals, one of which is a middle finger, so it's always nice. But yeah, it just kind of cycles through like rock on, all those kind of random kind of hand motions. So simple stuff. To continue down my list though, along with vaping, there's a few other kind of gameplay introductions it has. There's a variety of mechanics, I'll say, that you use. You climb through vents. To climb through vents, you literally put you put R2 and then you drag and you're pulling yourself through the vent. There's obviously the gunplay, which I'll get to in a second as well. I guess I can get to now while we're here. So the gunplay, for them, like when you're just firing hip fire, it feels so sick, because I think one of the best things about playing this game is that it has these organic character moments that kind of only happen because of like it's in VR and you're able to do it. So what I mean by that is that like there was a moment earlier when I was playing yesterday where, by the way, this scene, the jumping out the window, that's if you're for the audio or video watchers, that scene made my jaw drop because I wasn't expecting it, because I was just like, oh shit, we're jumping out a window right now. Anyway, the shooting when you're shooting from the hip is fine, but there's no precision when you're like, I am having so much trouble like lining up a gun and like looking down like aiming down sights and shooting. It just doesn't feel good to me at all. Like I have this gun that I just got yesterday where I was like some of the assault rifles, you can not just grab the what the hell is it called? The stock? No, the grip. I guess you grab the grip, but then you can also grab the front rail as well for like stability. But as soon as I grab the front rail, it's like the guns becomes unwieldy for some reason. So that's
I think that's one of those really tricky things that a lot of VR like shooters have issues with, is that sort of like aim down sight kind of mechanic. Because I feel like that's an area that, it looks fine in a normal shooter, but there's probably a lot of fudging with like how that is framed in a normal game. And as soon as that becomes detached from like the static like aim down sight view and hip fire view is where you start getting a lot of that weird disconnect.
And occasionally, like, I mean, the first few times I like smacked myself in the face when I was trying to light up a shot. I was like, I don't care, I'm just gonna hip fire, and it feels much more natural. Just kind of like, like kind of like you can essentially have to feel out where like where it's going to be, look and aim, kind of like communicate that way. But it does get pretty good where you can actually like quick draw and fire and hit someone and feel pretty satisfied with it. But anyway, to the point I was making about yesterday, about the organic kind of character moments that I had, I was playing yesterday and I had someone threw a grenade at me, and I was like, oh fuck, it's a grenade. So I grabbed the grenade and I'm like, all right, let's throw this shit out. It turns out it hit a wall right in front of me and landed back. And I was like, I didn't like immediately in the heat of the moment, I was like, all right, whew, dodge that grenade. And then I was like, what's that beeping? Look down and I see the grenade still, so I pick it up again and I throw it. And and like as it's leaving, like as it like leaves my hand, as it hitting like the opponents, like or where the enemies are, it finally blows up. And I was like, oh, that's good. Like that's Jackie Chan-esque timing of action that the game can't fully kind of choreograph. You just kind of have to give the player all those mechanics and then hope that stuff happens. But another thing, apart from the gunplay, that this game has is climbing. Like at parts, you turn into Nathan Drake in this game. So you have to like you're grabbing like scaffolding and then climbing through like up, and it feels like an upper body workout, because even though you're obviously not pulling your body weight, like there's segments where your arms are up just like climbing for a prolonged period of time. Like, god dang, I need to mix that up. And then also there's a reoccurring mechanic, which is the toolkit. And the toolkit has a few things that you can go through. One is the basic one is lock picking, and it's like pretty good. It's like Skyrim lock picking, but with two controllers. So it gives you a little bit like one hand is twisting it to try to get the pin right, and then the other hand clicks it up. So it actually feels a little bit more intuitive than just doing it on a controller, like like regular Skyrim or whatever. But then there's also like a screwdriver. So at times you're like, oh, you have to take apart this thing to get access to the innards of a box or power box. So you have to like take off the screws. Sometimes you do that, and then you have to cut a wire, and there's like snippers in your toolkit that you can then use to cut it. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just like sometimes you just have to blow it up, so you have a little like charge and a little cigarette lighter that you can do. And one of the like and there's some weird interaction stuff too, because like at one point I'm cracking a safe, and during the part, like I had the my toolkit open, I had a lighter, and in the safe there was a cigar, and I was like, oh shit! So I grabbed the cigar with one hand, picked up the lighter, held the cigar up to my face, and then held the lighter up, and the cigar started to burn. So like stuff like that is also pretty cool, like just like small touches that kind of bring the world to life, in a bit. But that being said, even though there are cool character moments that are not scripted, like I was describing, there are cool scripted moments as well. Moments that people shouldn't be surviving. Like no human being is going to survive these moments, but like it's VR, baby. The future is here. We can do whatever we want. And so, yeah, there's like some truly like I don't want to necessarily say jaw dropping, but like it's some like, oh man, this is like
cool stuff to experience in VR.
Yeah, and I was like, I wish I was, I experienced this right when it came out, so I could, foolishly think, and oh, in 5 years, imagine gaming. Where's VR gonna go from here? Nowhere, not very far, surprisingly. But it would have been cool to be a part of that moment. But yeah, overall though, dude, this game is feels great. It looks for the most part okay. Like there's some kind of didn't quite polish that area off as much, but the core areas where you're actually like the gameplay, the levels are actually taking place are super cool. And you have a variety of kind of different locations you travel to, so it's like, it's not just you're not just looking at the same kind of suburb of London or some generic battlefield. Like you're getting a decent mix of stuff. And honestly, yeah, like I said, it's one of the best VR games that I've experienced, and I highly recommend, if you have the ability to play the PlayStation VR, to check out Blood and Truth, because it's a good one.
You kind of sold me on it. At some point, if I ever get VR, it does sound like a kind of game I would enjoy.
100%.
Taking itself serious, but has enough goof in there to make it fun.
And as an offshoot to this conversation, one of the things that I kept thinking about as I was playing was, man, if London Studio made a Mission Impossible game, I would be in heaven. I mean, there's some elements of the game, and you might have caught that from the trailer and stuff too, that like are, like, oh shit, like high stakes, we got to get there, this has to happen, you got to you got to jump now, like these kind of like high intensity things. I would have like, man, I can close my eyes and I can picture the VR headset on my face that has, like a Halo jump sequence that then goes into like a little stealth sequence. And then, I don't know. There's so much you can do with that. Mission Impossible or James Bond, but like something in that, because again, now that I said it, London Studio, probably James Bond, the Oi governor over there, probably like that kind of stuff. So either way, man, I hope they would have done something. Obviously that's not going to happen now, but yeah.
Yep.
But that's that. Now, Nick, I don't think we have any other games to talk about. It only took us an hour. So let's get to the news. I stole that from Greg.
I was going to say, it also kind of sounded like Three Dog there for a second.
I'm still in left and
right.
Get
to the cashews.
All right. So, okay, well, let's mix this up so that we're talking about the last thing first, because just to make things easier for the transition. So,
yeah, for sure.
Last week I mentioned that THQ Nordic has a digital showcase. Nick and I both watched it, not together. He just didn't want to hear my voice when he was experiencing THQ Nordic's. By the way, surprisingly dope animations in between their they had like PlayStation level animations in between their segments, which I was like wasn't expecting. But anyway. It was a relatively short showcase, about 30 minutes. And Nick, did you watch the Handy Games pre-show as well, or did you just...
I did watch that.
Okay, all right, sweet. I didn't have a whole lot from the Handy Games pre-show to talk about, but if there's anything that stuck out to you, we can definitely touch on it.
Yeah, not overly. I haven't really... I wasn't familiar with Handy Games at all before this, but yeah,
I mean, it's not surprising. I'm not. It is. So here's the thing. Alexa and I actually did a reaction to it. It's up on this very channel. You can go check it out. Thanks to everybody who already has watched it. But the thing that we kind of discovered live, like I had heard about Handy Games. Obviously, I'm the one that kind of vets our press releases and the stuff that we get in. So I have seen the name a lot, and I've played a few games from them too. But I was discovering live that I was like, wow, some of these games that I played, they made. And then it clicked, because I was like, I didn't know, like, they made the Cosmic Shake. the SpongeBob game. Here's the thing.
Oh,
Here's the
gotcha.
thing. They didn't, Nick. No, don't say gotcha.
Okay.
They make the mobile ports of those games. They also make original like console games as well. But a lot of the games that I was discovering, I was like, oh, I've seen that game. It's games that THQ Nordic has published on console, and then they help with the mobile port of it. So handy
Gotcha.
games, I'm guessing handy because it's mobile. I'm not sure. But yeah, don't have too much to say about that. It was still a cool showcase, some cool games in there. It's just that nothing was like, oh my God, that was incredible. That being
really
said,
piqued our interests specifically.
I have to say that right off the bat, as soon as the THQ Nordic showcase started, they hit a home run for me, Nick. The Eternal Life of Goldman looked fucking sick. That was
this was one of my highlights too.
It kind of looks like a Cuphead in a way, but it has instead of those what would you say, like 60s, 70s cartoons? What is that? What Cuphead is emulating?
Cuphead is like 20s and 30s.
20s and 30s, yeah. So while that's that's what they're emulating, I think that the Eternal Life of Goldman is more so like a Gravity Falls, like those Cartoon Network animations is what I got from it, where it still felt like stylized and really cool, like art style. It just wasn't like skipping frames and that kind of thing. Like it didn't feel hand animated.
Yeah,
like
very quality animations, very dynamic and interesting backgrounds. I kind of got the feeling that it was like a Metroidvania from the trailer, but the trailer on YouTube says it's a platformer adventure. So some platforming, some action, 2D, that sort of thing. But yeah, it looks really awesome. Really interesting.
It was so weird
designs.
because like initially there had this really long pre-trailer animation. I was like, what is going on? And then the gameplay starts and I was like, I'm in. It was like the act, like once the movements happen and I realized how smooth and kind of cohesive everything looked and felt. I was like, yeah, this is cool.
Honestly felt, I don't mean this as an offense, but it felt like a very non-THQ game.
Sure. No, 100%. I think THQ has certainly like if I was to think of a THQ Nordic, how to describe it, it would be trying to be realistic, some really realistic, some, not hitting that bar quite closely. Usually third person action adventure games. And I say that, like, I mean, they have a variety of within that, but like, there's a lot of THQ Nordic games that are third-person open world or semi-open world that like it's in that vein, and this is definitely not one of them. But yeah, go ahead. You were saying.
That was pretty much it. I was just going to say that it was.
Yeah, no,
I
agree.
Influenced by ancient fables. So if any of the words that we just said interest you, definitely give the trailer a look. It's a cool looking one.
Of course, make sure to wish list on Steam because that always helps out developers. I'm gonna fly through some of these. Stop me if these are some of the ones that looked cool. Not necessarily ones that I'd be 100% picking up day one. All of them, but
sure.
All right, Epic Mickey Rebrushed. So the PS3 360 game is coming back to to modern consoles now with this rebrushed remaster version. It doesn't look all too crazy remastered, but maybe I'm just not remembering the original quite as blurrily. But yeah, Wreckfest is getting a sequel. Wreckfest 2.
This was one of my other highlights.
Pretty good trailer too. I like the trailer.
I liked the trailer a lot, and I played Wreckfest maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
On the Nintendo Switch, where it was meant to be played, I think.
I did not do that. I played it on PlayStation, so I can't speak to a Switch version, but the mind boggles at the thought of that.
Yeah.
But the first one was fun. I mean, it's kind of just like your standard sort of racer, demolition derby-esque kind of thing. But I think the real highlight of the show is the destructibility of the cars, because they don't use licensed cars. So they're really able to like
just
smash
trash
the bodies and everything. And you even get like a bit of a little tease at that in this trailer. So yeah, it's definitely a cool announcement for sure.
Yeah, no, that one was really cool. The one that caught me by surprise, I knew this was a game, but I hadn't really seen much of it. It was Titan Quest 2. It looked a lot more Diablo than I was expecting. I don't know why. I thought it was like a TRPG or a CRPG, something like that. But this is, like a Diablo-esque game. And honestly, like pretty close to Diablo in terms of like quality. Again, you're not hitting Activision Blizzard quality. That would be foolish to expect anyone to really get to that bar. But still, like really, it looks really awesome. And I think that the what they showed in the showcase kind of piqued my interest more than kind of anything else I'd seen before. So Titan Quest 2 is on my radar now. We'll see how it goes. Gothic remake. Now, look, I've played Elix 2, I've played Risen 1, and Gothic has been like I'm essentially regressing through the Piranha Bytes games cycle. So I'm now looking forward to Gothic 1 remake. I've been looking forward to it for like a year now because that's like when I first heard about it. And today we got a pretty good in-depth look about what they're doing with this game. It seems that apart from just, instead of just a one-for-one remake, which to I think a degree it was, they are actually kind of making some changes here and there and tweaking to make it a little bit more cohesive, or not a cohesive, upgraded project. That being said, it'd be interesting to see where they strike that balance, because I think part of Piranha Bytes' legacy has been that weird stiffness that comes from that gameplay. And
I think you definitely get that in the character models. That was something that I was picking up on that trailer.
You certainly do, yeah. And
I think the world sounded really interesting, though. Like this, prison colony trapped under like a magic shield thing, and they all like break up into different groups. I was like, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's a clever way of having like written into the lore of not having the world be too big. It's like, it's
right.
It has to be like this. No, honestly, yeah, it still looks interesting, even if it is stiff. I am looking forward to just checking it out and seeing what it is. I have some sort of a soft spot for THQ Nordic open world games. And so, yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye on this one. And it was also funny if you watch my reaction to it. Like, there's like, I'm like, this looks cool, but like, what about the gameplay? And then the guy's like, let's talk about gameplay. I was like, oh shit, oh damn. Yeah, okay, so there's that. Next up, the last two were teasers. First one, I don't even know how to say it. It's Trazer, I think. Trazer Studios.
I think it's here. Let me look it up.
So it's spelled, or it's Tarsier Studios.
Yeah, I think it's Tarsier.
So either way, it's from the studio that made Little Nightmares and Little Nightmares 2. Did they make both of them? I think there's some sort of they made both, but then the Little Nightmares 3
third one is being made by a different studio.
Yes. But so it's their new game. We'll find out about it at Gamescom, so that's coming up soon. So we don't know much about it. And then at the very end, for like 5 seconds, they gave us a little tease of, I would say, the biggest IP that THQ Nordic has. It. Correct me if I'm wrong. If we were to drop a comment, or Nick, if you can think of one. But Darksiders is coming back.
I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think, funny enough, I think the only thing that, well, here, let me do some quick fact checking before I commit to this answer. Publisher, where is this? Hold, real quick, Sri.
All right, I'll play the trailer so that people can be entertained. Look at this shiny thing, chat. Look at this. Look at this.
I do have things to say about Darksiders as well.
Are you a Darksider?
I am. I actually do like Darksiders.
It's been on my list of games to get to. But
boy,
all of them
what? Falling apart very quickly.
What were you trying to do?
I still don't want to say it wrong. Let me just get it here. Okay, it's not. All right. I was gonna say, originally what I was going to say, the only thing that could maybe give it a run for its money under THQ was Remnant, which was also developed by Gunfire Games. But Remnant is published by Gearbox, not
Yes.
THQ.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Oh,
I would
could
say
ask me that.
Darksiders.
I gotta tell you that. Yeah. It is. I'm looking forward to it, but again, I don't have investment in the Darksiders universe. I've always admired it from afar, and so maybe this will give me an excuse. I'm guessing at the earliest next year when this comes out, I'll play through
this trailer's a bit of a nothing trailer. This was my other highlight, just because I have played some of the other games. But yeah, I'm excited because I think I've played Darksiders 1, 2, and 3. The only one that I haven't done is Genesis.
Okay, but that one's like a not a traditional Darksiders game though. It's like a tactical or not
kind
tactical.
of. That's the weird thing about Darksiders is that each game is a bit different in terms of its genre.
Okay.
So like the first game is kind of like a God of War meets Legend of Zelda style game.
I see.
The second one's kind of more action-y, Diablo-y. The third one is more of a Souls-like, and then the fourth one is like a isometric shooter / action game. So like the camera perspective is very different, but each game kind of has its own gameplay identity. And so going into this, it'll be interesting to see what a new Darksiders is like. And I know one of the most interesting things is because obviously it revolves around the Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
Yep.
And each of the previous 4 games you've played as a different horseman. So it'll be interesting to see if this is like more of a culmination kind of game, or if like, this is sort of where like the story's been building to. I'm not like a diehard Darksiders fan, but I have enjoyed each of the ones that I've played. So this was definitely kind of a cool announcement.
Now, at the very end of the whole showcase, they ended on a black screen with some text that had some pretty important stuff that I think is worth mentioning. So they said, as of today, THQ Nordic, and Handy Games not included, has 23 games in development, thereof 13 still unannounced after this showcase. So there's a lot more that THQ is cooking that we don't know about. And like I said, I've been a THQ Nordic fan for a while. It's just like it's one of those things where I think they land in this weird mid-range between like, like they're not AAA, but they're certainly not like an indie, and it's like this middle ground that I always appreciate because they don't always get hits, but they go for really like weird gambles that I always think are kind of worth going for. Because even if like a game like Biomutant doesn't really hit like as it's supposed to, I think it's still such a weird, quirky game, and I do think it's some people, it certainly found some audience, I'm sure, but yeah, it's still cool to see those kind of games get THQ's seal of approval.
If nothing else, there were certainly a lot of like at least mildly interesting games that they showed off today. So I'd say it's definitely worth checking out.
And again, it's 30 minutes. So like, and with both, Handy Games and THQ. So yeah, it's really not too much to go through. Now, I feel like every transition to a different topic I do, it's like a few episodes ago, but no, 2 episodes ago, we talked about 7 out of 10 games. And one of the games that I'd brought up at the time was The Order 1886. And I was like, oh man, I hope there's a sequel. But unfortunately, Meta bought them, and now they make VR games until the end of time. Well, guys, just check my clock. It's the end of time. Fucking, they're gone. As of today, Meta has closed Ready at Dawn, who, of course, along with Order 1886, have made God of War, Ghosts of Sparta on the PSP, and Chains of Olympus, I think, on the PSP, and then also the Lone Echo VR games as well. I think they put out like 2 or 3 of those, if I remember correctly. So sad to see them go. I mean, look, Ready at Dawn was like doing super cool stuff. I think like they're like if you can go. I mean, like Nick and I said this again in 2 episodes ago on episode 20, but you can go back to the Order 1886 and it still holds up. And part of that is like this, the really cool cloth simulation, like whatever that stuff is so cool and adds so much fidelity to the game. Ready at Dawn, it really is talent that we will be missing here because they're really good at what they do.
Yeah,
Obviously,
the biggest hope
change.
would be that they could, reform under something else. But yeah, the just another
Ready at
hit.
dusk. Please come back. Ready at dusk.
That would be wild.
Dude, Telltale came back under the same name, so
Right?
can only imagine. But
Yeah, that just kind of screams to me like, they would come back as Ready at Dusk, and then like, somebody would be like, "Can we sue for that?" And it's just like you just closed them. Like, what?
I will say that this isn't. So obviously, this sucks in terms of the framing of a really cool developer being canned, but it also doesn't make it's not too surprising when you look at Meta as a whole. If you don't know already, Meta is a sinkhole of money. They are pumping. I mean, they are losing, as far as I know, billions of dollars a year with a B. And I think, even if it's in the millions, it's like high millions. But part of the reason, like Meta, obviously formerly known as Facebook, is Mark Zuckerberg, Zuck, really thinks that VR is the future, just like I do after playing Blood and Truth. And they've essentially been hiring a whole bunch of people to kind of like they're willing to spend a lot of money to get celebrity kind of endorsements as well. One of the things I think they were working on was like essentially paying actors to get their voices so that they can have a chatbot that sounds like them, so that you could go in and be like, oh, I'm talking to this person, but it's like an actor, but it's not. It's just an AI. Mm-hmm. It's weird stuff with that, but Meta has just lost a lot of money. Again, they're losing billions with a B every year, and they are slowly making a curve to not losing money. You know what I mean? Like the curve is so far red that they can't go to green until they've slowly not gone to the red. Like they got to get out of the red literally first and then get to the green. So it's not surprising that they're trying to cut costs and, get rid of kind of any extra baggage, quote unquote, that they need to before from this supposedly sinking ship. Granted, a behemoth of a sinking ship. One could say the Titanic. But those ships don't sink, so it's fine. So sucks, but I mean, I think not even in the gaming realm. I think like Intel fired 15,000 people.
Yeah, that's what I heard on another podcast.
Think about those numbers, dude. 15,000 people from one company. Oh man, and we're not even gonna.
Crazy.
But that transitions us to the main topic of this show. Now, obviously, we've been talking a lot about layoffs and company closings and restructurings, but this time around, it's a different side of the gaming industry. It's the reporting side. GameInformer, the world-renowned, I would say, I think that's fair to say, Nick, world-renowned games media magazine, who if you're a kid who I guess specifically lived in the US in the in the 2010s or late 20s 2000s late 20s what if you're from the future it's one of those things where you couldn't go into a GameStop without having a GameInformer magazine shoved down your throat. Like they're like, the best part of the Pro magazine, you get some discounts, or for the Pro membership is you get some discounts, but you get a magazine every month in the mail, and it was a huge selling point. And by the way,
that was the reason why I had a GameStop Power Up Pro membership, was for GameInformer.
100% same here. And really, really cool covers. Like GameInformer had some of the coolest fucking covers, not even for gaming magazine, just for magazines. They just had really well designed covers. Obviously they're video games, they look, like cooler than like half naked chicks or whatever, but still like it's just like, I mean, this is like core gaming memory stuff. And I think that kind of lends into how we're going to approach this topic, which is, not as extensive as a topic as we've had in the past, but one that I think feels certainly important, which is instead of just, being like, hey, yeah, this place got shut down and, that sucks. We wanted to take a second to kind of talk about how Game Informer has maybe impacted us over our lifetimes. And specifically, I think, Nick, the first thing is like, talk about why we do this, why we write and talk about video games, I think is due in not small part to Game Informer. At least, for me, I mean, I'll let you speak for yourself, Nick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Basically, like I can chart my brief history with gaming magazines because obviously, I don't know when exactly, I first started getting into the games industry, like, properly. Like I could probably pinpoint it, but, my first gaming magazine that, I got was a Nintendo Power. And that was, I still have my first issue, and it was a cover issue about the DS at the time.
Yeah.
And got it in a Toys R Us of all places, right? So basically, once I learned, like, I was like, what is this? Like, it's like a magazine. Like, I'd seen, my parents read magazines and stuff like that, but it's like, it has video games in it. And there was probably some sort of Zelda thing on it, honestly, to get my attention.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Basically, we got this magazine, and, through that, I had a subscription to Nintendo Power for, a brief time.
Sure.
Eventually, I wanted to expand, as I'm getting into more and more different types of games, I wanted to expand the scope out of Nintendo Power. So I had a subscription to a magazine called Game Pro, which I'm not,
wow.
they probably don't exist anymore, honestly.
Game Pro.
I had a subscription to Game Pro for a while, and then eventually I got into Game Informer through GameStop, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get into it in a little bit, but I did pull some of those magazines. Yeah. And
unfortunately, that was actually what we're gonna do. We're gonna pull out some of our favorites, but unfortunately, I don't have all mine are at my parents' house, so I don't have the access to my catalog of Game Informer magazines as where they get shipped to. But I'm sure we'll have a few at least that I can mention here.
But yeah, and just ever since I was, a kid looking at those things, I mean, it was just a different way to experience games that I loved. If it's like, I was on like a car ride to the store or something, like maybe throw a magazine in the car and just like look at the cool reviews and stuff like that. I remember I used to bring some of the Game Pros to school and would read them in school. And I remember one time getting super nervous because there was a section in there on Mortal Kombat, and I realized that there was like blood in the one picture. And I was like, oh, I hope my teacher doesn't see this or anything.
Yeah.
But like even from like a young age, I think I have something somewhere. It was some class thing where it's like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I think on there was something related to, either writing for a magazine or, game tester, something generic that like, a 8-year-old would write down. But yeah, it's just always been kind of a part of, my history of playing games. And basically, Game Informer, obviously, I had that subscription the longest out of all of them. So there was definitely a significant chunk of my transition from like a younger gamer into a more, adult gamer. Sort of Game Informer was there transitioning or like facilitating that transition.
Yeah. I think I honestly, I'll just copy and paste everything you just said because I really agree. I think Game Informer was one of those things where it was, obviously also I think this is around the time like G4 was still on too. So like it was like, honestly, it felt like, being a nerd was okay at that point. Like that was when the transition was happening fully. And it was so cool to, be a part of that and have not just, turn on the TV and watch someone talk about video games, but then, you get have a magazine that like Game Informer features and cover stories are so rad. I mean, there are some of the like obviously I was saying the cover design is really cool, but like just I enjoyed reading Game Informers, and over the years, this look, we kind of if we're being honest, we kind of manifested this whole Respawn Station thing over the last 4 years or so. It really was nothing, but I think that the something, the spark for creating this was not like it comes from many things, but Game Informer is a big part of it, because for me, growing up and seeing Game Informer, I was like, it's so cool to write and talk about video games like this. And I mean specific. I talk about video games as in like discussing, not the literal verb of talking like we are now, but I mean like as a form of written format to just talk about video games and discuss video games was so cool to me. And it had been for a long time what I had been trying to do in terms of Nick, we've said this before briefly, but like Nick and I were part of this TV thing in college that I kept trying to pitch video game stuff to, and didn't quite always land. Rarely, actually, I think did those ideas ever land. But luckily, because they were rejected there, I was able to have a pool of ideas for like, okay, how do I want to do this? And when we started this, it was like, okay, all those things that I had wanted to do, all those kind of ideas I had that of like, what if I was to be a part of this site, what would I do? And that's kind of how Respawn Station came to be. But it sucks being here where we are now, because I think part of why we started Respawn Station, part of why the whole thing happened was I was like, oh, this would be awesome for me to one day have a website that would be a portfolio where you could go. I could apply for a job at like a Game Informer and be like, hey, look at all this stuff that I've written over the last few years. And it was really kind of shocking to see how suddenly it happened. I just, it was like, oh, 1 second it was there, and then the next second it was gone. And I actually want to take a break from the wholesomeness and talk about, okay, how absolutely ridiculous and shitty GameStop is for what they did here. So first of all, let me break it down for you guys. So they released this weird ass cryptic tweet. All right. And it was like, the final level, farewell from Game Informer. And it was this message that look, I'll read it briefly, but essentially, like a lot of people have stated, and it's obviously you can't confirm these things unless someone from the inside does, but what a lot of people have been saying has been an AI generated message, or AI generated, maybe tweaked by humans, but it says, the final level, farewell from Game Informer. After 33 thrilling years of bringing you the latest news, reviews, and insights from the ever-evolving world of gaming, it is with a heavy heart that we announced the closure of Game Informer. From the early days of pixelated adventures to today's immersive virtual realms, AI is fuck, dude. Those who says that? Anyway, we've been honored to share this incredible journey with you, our loyal readers. AI is fuck, our loyal readers. Yes. Anyway, while our presses may stop, the passion for gaming that we've cultivated together will continue to live on. Thank you for being a part of our epic quest, and may your own gaming adventures never end. I don't know. Okay, good or bad, whatever. Weird, shitty. On top of this, okay, so a former employee of Game Informer who still had access to the login for Twitter for Game Informer logged in and said, and tweeted again. Essentially, had two images, which were just like the credits, like credits of all the people that were working at Game Informer, and then the message was, our 33-year legacy deserves a genuine goodbye, written by a former Game Informer member. We're heartbroken by the shutdown of our publication, yet we leave with pride knowing we poured everything we had into it. In the words of our editor-in-chief, be well, play well. I think that was a much better human response, much more concise. So it only makes sense then that GameStop fucking nuked the goddamn Twitter account so that it is inaccessible, okay? Now, on top of that, to go back to what I said earlier about how Nick and I had planned this to be, going kind of reminiscing through our old kind of magazines that we had. And since I realized I couldn't access my stash of GameInformer magazines, I was going to go up to the website because, their stuff has all their articles. Guess what? The website's gone. The entire thing, even if you have a direct link to an article that you like, maybe I'm an idiot or a foolish man for doing this. If I have an article that I really like, or just like I'm like, wow, this is top-notch writing, I'll bookmark it. And even if you have a direct link, it takes you to that shitty landing page with that possibly AI generated message with farewell from GameInformer, the final level. Like, dude,
which I don't get at all.
Yes.
Like,
yeah,
I really, that just doesn't make sense. Like, even to just like leave it up. Like, I mean, I guess like if you have to pay for the domain or something and they're really just trying to nuke everything, like, I guess, but like it's, yeah, I don't get that at all.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. And now, obviously, before we get into the reminiscing, Matt Miller, who is the former GameInformer editor-in-chief, did actually release a statement earlier today. It's like this just kind of a general open letter that is much more eloquently worded. I'll let you read it. A few people have shared it, like, Kyle Hillard, who obviously from GameInformer shared it over on X or Twitter. So check it out over there. But for a kind of some sort of a closure to this this whole thing. But yeah, it sucks, and I think it just feels disrespectful to do this really from GameStop or whoever, whatever corporate person was like, this is the right thing to do. I look, I don't know if this is the last thing I'll say about it in terms of like this negative, depressing look, but I just can't help but think about some of this stuff. When we were talking about the Destiny restructurings last week, I think, right? Yeah, last week. I had said that they specifically use the word roles, like we're getting rid of this many roles instead of, people. We're not firing people. We're getting rid of these roles. I think similarly, I think this is just to dehumanize this whole thing, like not put a faces to these. I think even that tweet, I think that's why they got rid of it, to be like, oh well, fuck, I can't have people empathizing with these people that we've just let go. And I don't know, maybe this is the cynic in me that's like thinking this, but dude, look, they could easily look at something like Second Wind and be like, don't want these people then succeeding somewhere else. No plug. It just feels like such a waste. And look, I get that like hosting a website can be, we host a fucking website. I mean, that's literally what we do. And I can understand that maybe print media video game coverage is not the booming market it maybe once might have been in the 90s and 2000s predominantly, but still have like taking down the website is and making all of those pieces just inaccessible is, I mean, it's some Nintendo level like fucking losing legacy content dumping, like, you know what I mean? Like it's you're just getting rid of content that like now people cannot access unless, obviously there's some backwards way that you can access it through the Wayback Machine or whatever it is, but it's not organic. It's not the way it was meant to be kind of consumed, and it sucks that like, you're tucking this away as part of history, less than a week after the news broke.
Yeah, and I feel like, GameStop specifically, like they've been trying to bleed Game Informer for a while, it seems, because I mean, like they've, you know, outside of, the recent layoff waves that have been happening, I feel like Game Informer historically has had like lots of, downsizing of that team. I mean, they started de-emphasizing the print magazines, obviously,
Yeah,
and
now
trying to
they did
transition to
digital.
digital.
Yeah.
And now they just were like, okay, well, we're done. Like, you're
Yep.
gone. So
Yeah. Again,
just
it's
sad.
yeah. But Nick, let's celebrate a little bit. Show me what you got, dude. I mean, let's see if you got any good covers over there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, the
We
one
just kind
that
of wanted to, get it a little bit more lighter
yeah.
and sort of celebrate some of this as well.
Breath
What
of
were
the
you gonna
Wild
say?
one. I remember that one. I'll pull up some random ones for the viewers if while we're doing this
So
as well.
we'll start with this one. This is my first Game Informer.
Oh
Um,
shit.
let's
Infamous
see
2. I
how
remember
well
that
this
one.
is. Yeah, Infamous 2. This was the first issue of Game Informer that I got. I got to make sure that, my
Your
address isn't on
address.
here or anything. But yeah, Infamous 2. This was the first one that I was like, oh, Game Informer, huh? And it was sitting, like you said, at the front of the GameStop. And I was like, why not? I'll pick that up. I was really interested in Infamous at the time. I did not have a PS3, and Infamous 2 were sort of like the first games where I was like, oh, I want a PS3, right? Because it's just like, cool superhero action stuff.
Yep. Yeah, the Breath of the Wild like cover with Link and Zelda holding the Master Sword. Fucking cool.
Mhm.
I remember that one.
So some of these that I grabbed like a handful, and I tried to curate some of them. Some of these are pertinent to topics we've discussed, and some of these are just kind of cool covers that I grabbed.
Sure.
Case in point, here is Order
Oh,
1886
wow.
to celebrate
Look
Ready
at
at
that.
Dawn.
Yeah.
Oh, I just realized that
It's the focus
freaking
yeah.
camera is
You got to
like
hold it closer to your face, I
blurring
think.
out.
Just hold it next to your face.
Sort of my face.
There you go.
That
There it is.
that working?
Yeah, that
Cool.
works.
Nice. So yeah,
Yeah.
I actually do think this is a pretty sick cover. Honestly, it's pretty minimal, but the one thing that I do think is cool about the Game Informer covers is a lot of the times it's like unique artwork and
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like we're slapping the cover art of the game like on the magazine. Some of them do that,
Yeah.
but sometimes they go really the extra mile to stylize these. Case in point, another one with a recent topic that we discussed is a No Man's Sky cover issue here. Let
Oh,
me
damn. I
let
also
me get
remember
that
that one.
in with
I worked at GameStop when that was when that was in circulation.
some really cool stuff here. Let me see here. I'll actually see if I can
The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, another good one.
where
Obviously, I think this
is
BioShock one is iconic. I mean, I feel like it's just a very recognizable cover. At least for me. I don't
Mhm.
know if I think like a lot of people kind of over the years have seen that one come and go. But yeah, and speaking of cover stories, I'm gonna pull it up because I think is it this month or next month they were gonna do a cover story of something big. Was it Dragon Age?
Might have been, yeah.
Can you imagine the
Also, I should mention to the audience because I just went into Discord to try to take off that, camera blur thing. I probably had my webcam displaying the audio again, so apologies for that. Maybe this will sound better now because I switched the input to the mic. I hate Discord. I always have problems with Discord. But Sri, here's one that I know you'll like. This game means a lot to you.
Dude,
The
hell
Last of
yes.
Us
Hell yes.
cover issue. This would be the PS3 cover issue.
Yes, and look, yeah, and you know what? We can actually enhance that too. Yeah, that's fucking sick. Hell yeah! And you know what? With that, here's Uncharted as well. With by the way, and now I didn't even realize this. Uncharted with a redesigned Elena. Like that is not what Elena looks like in the game. I think this is either like a concept
See,
art or redesigned or
that's something that's really interesting, Sri, because I grabbed a couple here also that sort of play into that, where sometimes with these covers, and because Game Informer and other magazines would be showcasing things early, it's sometimes you get into situations where
things change.
maybe, yeah, things change or things get canceled.
Yeah.
This here is Fortnite before Battle Royale. They had a cover
Oh,
issue back when it was
that's
Save the World.
yeah, yeah.
So this had
I
a
don't
couple
remember this one,
image
but
spread
I
in
see
that.
I see this one being kind of thrown around a lot. But oh, that's not it. That's a trailer for a video game. All right, there it is. Sex, lies, and video games. Don't
I haven't
remember.
seen that one.
Don't remember
That's
this one.
I think that's Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball. if I
Yeah,
am
I'd assume
familiar
so
with
from
that at
the.
all.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
But another one that I grabbed, featuring a canceled game or
Oh
maybe a
shit.
restructured game, I guess you could say, is this one for Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Patriots.
Oh shit.
Uh, this is
Wow.
what would eventually become Rainbow Six Siege,
Siege.
but this was just a completely different game because I'm sure that this has, in the actual cover story, there's like a E3 demo for this game that took place on, I think it was the Golden Gate Bridge, and there was all sorts of there was an actual build
Oh
of this game out there, but
damn.
eventually it kind of transitioned into what would become Rainbow Six Siege.
Damn. Yeah. There's Dead Space, another big one, and the next one I do remember very fondly as well.
Classic.
This one is iconic as it gets in video game covers. It's Arkham
Hmm.
City, Batman and Catwoman. Yeah. I mean, those posters alone for Arkham City are cool, but like, yeah, that cover was. And again, they
Hmm.
really had some like really slick. Like they had cover designs that weren't cool just because it's a video game. They were just like cool pieces of art on the cover of a magazine. And I think
Which is my last little group that I have
oh,
here.
perfect. Go for it.
Yeah, I got a couple of them. This one's one of my personal favorites, which was for Borderlands 2. I love when they
Oh,
change
the title,
the
the
font
font.
for the actual
Yeah,
magazine and do the style.
yeah.
Yeah, this was a cool one. One of my personal favorites also is for BioShock Infinite, which they had it look like this old style, magazine from like the 1910s or 1920s. And then also we brought up Breath of the Wild earlier, but I always had a soft spot for this Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword one as well. That showcased Link and Fee and had this nice purple color.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm trying to find this. So, look, to further drive the point home, if we haven't already, one of the things, like I think, the part of me that really kind of grew on Game Informer, and to kind of drive that point home about how much I really wanted to do this, right? Like to create Respawn Station, but then also like have it be some sort of like my own version of Game Informer, or etc. There is, I actually, I'm currently the only person that has a copy, but it's something that I do want to polish and give out to like select members of the crew. But there is a physical version, a physical book that we have of the first. I think it was our most popular reviews, like written game reviews on Respawn Station for the first 2 years. And again, it's somewhere in the cacophony of, I don't know if cacophony. Oh wait, I may have found it. Nick, cover for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, Game Informers, obviously, I mentioned GamePro and Nintendo Power earlier. They also have their own fair share of awesome covers. Nintendo Power obviously has some very awesome vintage covers. And, obviously, we're just talking about the covers right now, but Obviously, there's plenty of interesting reviews, interviews, articles, that sort of things in these magazines. And it really just kind of sucks that, GameStop goes and nukes an entire online resource of these things. Now it's going to end up being people like us that have physical copies of these magazines that are able to continue to share the legacy, and things like, I'm pretty sure that MinMax was out there trying to collate a bunch of Game Informer resources and things like that. So
100%. All right, so here it is. I did find it. Now I want to preface this by saying, one, this is not professional. This is literally the first proof copy that was created. Two, this is not for commercial use. Like, we're not selling this. It's literally like an internal thing. We're just sharing it. And I say that specifically because there's obviously, like, it's gaming photos, like it's gaming related. So here it is. This is the best of Respawn Station, Volume 1. And if you're wondering, it features reviews for Elden Ring, Resident Evil Village, Far Cry 6, Dead Space, Hi-Fi Rush, Sleeping Dogs.
Hi-Fi Rush.
And, there's, it's not necessarily a magazine, but like you could see what, let's see, Hi-Fi Rush, by Nick Sivak. It's on page 71. Let's see. And there it is. It's not amazing. It's not perfect. But man, I have to say, some of this stuff shows how much Nick fucking poured into these reviews. Look, I could go to his Elden Ring review and and I don't even have to say it, really. Look, I'll give you guys, look, ready? This is his Elden Ring review. It starts on page 39. All right? I'm just going to go through it with you guys. Oh, it's still going. Nick is still going.
You know what's funny about that?
It ends on page 53.
I'm pretty sure Tears of the Kingdom surpassed that when I wrote that. So
damn. Well, Tears of the Kingdom didn't make this one. This was before that. But yeah, no, it's...
I had a lot to say about Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. But like this stuff, I think if anything we've said so far is not proof enough how much Game Informer means to us, I think this is literally the physical manifestation of why it does. Like it's like that whole reason why that happened is because Game Informer was like had been such a part of, like, obviously writing about games is cool for us, but like holding it in your hand, like, oh, it's like adds like a whole different thing. So yeah, that's Game Informer. It's rest in peace. It's one of those things we'll always kind of fondly remember, and I hope everyone that was kind of impacted by that can kind of find some footing in this tumultuous industry.
Yeah, obviously, not to make light of just, corporate bullshittery, but also an unfortunate kind of just sign of the times too, where, many of us lament a transition into a digital age, and it just kind of feels like that's another nail in that coffin.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, that's you were not wrong. I know, for speaking from my own experiences, I mean, this was. I think that this transition to digital stuff it makes sense in the modern age. I get it. But at the same time, I think that situations like this, where all this information that was so readily accessible, so readily, attainable, readable, is now just gone all of a sudden, unless, now it's the special people, right? Now it's Nick and me who have these physical editions. Like, we're special. We have access to things that you plebs who didn't subscribe to Game Informer didn't have.
And you weren't alive in 2013?
Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad, yeah. It's all that writing is gone, and it's a similar case can be made to probably a higher degree about video games as well, and all that, like that whole mess. But this obsoleteness of this digital stuff, the fact that you can lose it so fast, and like you think you have it but you don't. It's as we get further and further into this digital age, it's that keeps rearing its ugly head, that fact. And
the reason that everybody kicks up a fuss about it, but then companies like GameStop swoop in to prove exactly why people need to keep making a fuss about it.
I mean, because and you're 100% right, because there's a lot of times where you'll get into the conversation about like, oh, physical media, like, oh, Alan, like I was genuinely bummed that Alan Wake 2 did not come out physically, and that was one of the reasons I didn't pick up that game when it came out, because I'm one of the people, I'm of the mind, if I see a game that's that people I like, whose opinion I give credit to, like a game, then I'll pick up a game just to support the developer so that they can keep doing their thing. And I didn't do that for Alan Wake 2 because it didn't have a physical edition. Obviously, it's getting one now, but like those kind of, I mean, there's quite a few games that we've seen recently, and we're going to continue to see, that are getting digital only releases, and it absolutely sucks, because on one look, again, we're as self-proclaimed game journalists, we are on this fence where we can see both sides. We can see the gaming, and we can see the publishing and that kind of stuff too. And I get that it's easier to publish a game digitally first, and then you'll see the physical versions whenever like a year afterwards or whatever slowly crop up, or maybe limited run will pick it up for something. But by and large, when you release these digital games, and then all of a sudden some parent company is like, actually, and by the way, when I say some parent company, it's most likely Embracer Group, if we're being honest. But some parent company pull the plug, and all of a sudden even man, I feel like we were going off the deep end with this depressing conversation at the end here, because we had it wholesome for a bit, and now we're back into it, because I was going to say it gets even worse with games that are online and live service, where it's like once they pull the plug on that, even if you have a copy of the game, it's just a coaster at that point. Like, I'm fairly certain if you have a copy of Avengers, Marvel's Avengers, that's just Marvel's Avengers, that disc is, put it in a museum, or slap a few beers on it, because there's nothing else that thing's gonna do. I mean, yeah, kind of crazy.
Yep.
Anyway, Nick, to end off this episode, I saved this good part for the end, because that's what I do. I gotta end it on some sort of a positive note.
We're on a roller coaster this episode.
Yes. So it's time for the inbox, and this week it's a pretty heavy day for the inbox. The mailman struggled getting up the hill and dropping these off. So let's fly through them, shall we? Starting off, we have Star Wars Bounty Hunter is out now on PC and consoles. It is, of course, if you don't know, is an older game that was created by Lucasfilm Games, and it's coming back thanks to Aspyr, who have had some misses recently, but this one, thankfully, it's been out for a few days now. It doesn't seem to be a miss. It's a pretty faithful reskin, or a reboot, remake, a port, I'll say. Pretty faithful port.
Remaster port. There's some tweaks to it.
Yes. So here, let's get into it. So first of all, the game is out on PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, Nintendo Switch, and PC for $20 buckaroonies. So it has an updated camera system, modern control options, multiple visual enhancements, improved environmental textures, new dynamic lighting effects, and a new flashlight tool for navigating the galaxy's darkest places. So that one, we have a few Star Wars nerds in our chat, so check that out. And also, for anyone who's playing this on the PlayStation 5, where it was definitely meant to be played, there's several DualSense controller features as well. So that'll be fun to check out. Nick?
Sri?
Nick, do you like bare butt boxing? Well, do I have a game for you? Bare butt boxing is a pantsless physics brawler that is out in 1.0
God.
on PC and Nintendo Switch. So it's a cosmically chaotic multiplayer brawler from AAA visual effects studio Tuatara Games. God, what a name. So they've apparently provided VFX support for games, little tiny games like Fortnite. And now they're debuting their game. Like I said, it's going into Steam 1.0 and also is going to debut on the Nintendo Switch. So a rainbow of eccentric aliens duke it out in this physics-based matches to punch pantsless puglists. What the fuck? Into portals in 3-player local or 6-player online multiplayer. So now, honestly, it just looks fun, the gameplay, and also the name. I think I'm setting myself up poorly here to just say, if you have a name that I can ask Nick a question about, you're getting a mention on the podcast. So
yeah, this is starting to, carve itself out into its own segment.
All right, so this one, honestly, didn't see it. Actually, here, Nick, do you want best for last or best for now? That's how the saying goes.
Best for now. Now.
Okay, so this one really piqued my interest. Maybe it'll pique your interest as well. So it's called Spectre Divide, and it is from Mountaintop Studios, and it's essentially a competitive tactical first-person shooter. So the game is built around this never-before-seen duality mechanic, which hopes to reshape the way players approach strategy in a long-overdue evolution of tactical shooter genre. So in Spectre Divide, you get into teams of 3 versus 3, and the duality mechanic essentially is intuitively keeps players engaged in a small team format. While there are 3 players per team, each player controls a specter, a second body, that they can freely swap between in real time. They hope to deepen Jesus Christ. They hope that this deepens the tactical options available during a gunfight, allowing players to protect both points in the game's take on classic attack, defender, bomb site defusal, quickly recover teammates by switching to the body nearest to them, and more. Cool mechanic. I honestly, yeah, duality. I hadn't really seen this. If I was to describe this, I would say it's Valorant adjacent. It's a cel-shaded Valorant. Is Valorant cel-shaded? I don't know what that art style is described as, but honestly, it just looks really interesting, and I do like the idea of this 3v3, but it's also like, people have 2 bodies, and you can, I am interested to see how this feels and, in the hands of, if it's actually, if the duality thing actually makes a difference, you know what I mean? Terms of,
I'm curious if you can kill the non-controlled body prior to the controlled one, or if it's one phase is out of existence while the other one is, active.
Right. Yeah.
Some interesting dynamics for sure.
And they say that Mountaintop Studios, that team has a pretty big pedigree with experience on titles like Counter-Strike Global Offense, Valorant, Apex Legends, Overwatch, Call of Duty, and Halo, which is pretty cool. So
a lot of multiplayer people there.
Yeah, check it out. They have their first major stress test, or they had, I should say, their first major stress test on August 3rd and 4th. But right now, it's, we'll have to wait to see when more information will be coming out. It's still in development, but it's coming to PC at the very least. So that's what we know about that. Looks cool nonetheless. Quick shout out. I had mentioned a few episodes ago a game called Closer the Distance. It's a slice of life sim, and it's already out on PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. I don't want to reiterate that because, well, we already saw it. Another quick hitter that we'll get to here is a game that we've actually covered a little bit in the past. You can find out more about it on RespawnStation.com, but Impaler, the retro shooter that came out a year ago, maybe, I think, is going gold. Not actually, it's already gone gold, obviously. It's getting a gold edition in Impaler Gold. So Impaler Gold, to give you the rundown, Retrovibe, the indie game publisher known for its retro-inspired titles, and solo developer Aptivus have announced Impaler Gold, the most significant update yet to the fast-paced, minimalistic arena shooter Impaler. So this free update introduces new features and enhancements that will challenge and engage players like never before, along with and since it's released last year, so it was last year, Impaler has also received 10 substantial updates, adding new stages, enemies, weapons, upgrades, and other quality of life improvements. So now with Impaler Gold, that brings that all together and adds a brand new game mode to the game. And all of that is completely free for anyone who's already bought the game. So if you have Impaler already, you can get it. If not, it's available right now on Steam on PC via Steam and GOG. And here's a sweet deal on top of it. The game is $5, okay? $5 total. But if you get it within the first week of release of the Impaler Gold, you get a 33% discount, making it a whopping $3.34. So at that price, honestly, if it looks remotely engaging to you, I would recommend giving it a go. Second to last game we have on the inbox, or in the inbox, is The Mortuary Assistant. It is available now on PC, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch. If you don't know already, just to quickly recap, grab your clipboard and embalming tools and prepare for new haunt events, cadavers, lore, and an endless embalming mode in the free update for PC and Nintendo Switch players, and for the first time, a PS4 and PlayStation 5 release, with Xbox One and Xbox Series XS launch expected as early as next week, though there is no exact time of reference for that. But the Mortuary Assistant, for those of you who don't know, is this really weird horror game where you play as that's upsetting what was on screen. You play as a person who works at a mortuary. Surprise, surprise. You get a call that you have to work a light shift, and then you go in, and then it turns out it's not what you expected. There's the spooky stuff going on. It looks really cool. I've seen a few people play this like on stream and stuff, and it was actually pretty intense. Some really creepy shit in this. So yeah, if you dare, go check it out and play in the dark, you cowards. It's on consoles now. It's coming to even more consoles soon. Yeah,
Mortuary Assistant gives me the heebie-jeebies. So
the concept of the mortuary, or just the actual game?
The actual game, just it's just one of those games, kind of like Amnesia, that you look at it and you're just like,
God damn it, yeah. And that's the fucked up thing. I feel like eventually someone's gonna ask for me to play that game, Nick, and I'm here to answer that call when the time comes. Last game on the list. Actually, here's a fun one, guys. Just to throw it out there, A Quiet Place: The Road Ahead, the video game spinoff of the Quiet Place movies, has a release date. It's October 17th for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X. So there you go, a little fun one. But now, the final event, the main showstopper for this episode, is a game that I actually have had my eye on for a while. It's a cozy creature saver that is out now on PC and Xbox Series XS, and it's available on day one on Game Pass. It's called Creatures of Ava. This is from publisher 11-Bit Studios, who I absolutely love. Struggled saying that. And Spanish developer Inverge Studios and Chibig invite players on a breathtaking mission where essentially you are... to describe this very plainly, in layman's terms, this is sort of like Pokemon, but it has a heart to it. So Creatures of Ava hides a deep narrative co-written by Rihanna Pratchett that explores dueling themes of acting with empathy while learning that when you may need to let something go. Players take on the role of Vic, a young explorer who finds herself crash-landed on a distant planet alongside her companion Tabitha. During Vic's adventure, players will embrace exploration that focuses on taming and saving many creatures threatened by the Withering, while also ensuring the protection of the natural world. The world of Ava is wide open to wandering, helping a myriad of creatures, taking on side quests, and appreciating the beauty of Ava. So it's one I've had on my, again, like I said, I had my eye on for a while. It also has a flute playing mechanic, by the way. That's we don't get enough games that just randomly throw in a musical instrument. Shout out to Last of Us Part 2. So that's cool, right off the bat. And one of the reasons why I always love 11-bit studios is because they're just super, they're always giving back. It's super awesome to see. They did this during, multiple times. You can check out respawnstation.com to find out more about that. But, so along with this release, there's a DLC for Creatures of Ava. And so the DLC for both Steam and Xbox versions of the game containing 4 WDC-inspired WDC, I want to make sure it's not World Developer Conference. It's Whale and Dolphin Conservation. I want to make that clear, just in case. It has 4 WDC-inspired cosmetic backpack trinkets that can be obtained as part of the game's digital deluxe edition or bought separately for $2.99. And all net proceeds from the DLC will go to protect whales and dolphins. So stuff like that, always cool to see. So check out Creatures of Ava. But with that said, that brings us to the end of the episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this roller coaster. Honestly, didn't expect us to cross the 2-hour mark here, but I guess we can talk. I mean, not a lot was scripted. This was a very the weakest scripting that we've had in terms of the show, and yet we somehow still
scripting, more like a loose guideline.
Yes,
but...
yeah, no, I actually have word for word what I say determined before I start streaming. So,
me too, actually.
No, yeah, our idea, what we're going to talk about, yeah, it was very small and short list today, but somehow we're here we are. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thanks as always for watching. If you want to, whether you're listening to this live or watching this later, or listening to this on your podcast service platform of choice, the easiest way to get bite-sized content of everything we do here is to go to watch.respawnstation.com. It takes you to our YouTube channel where we have exactly that, highlights of our podcasts along with kind of new original shows that we have kind of cooking on the horizon. And speaking of, I think we'll end it on this little tease. Next week, we're recording a first episode of a new show. It's similar to this, but maybe a little bit more contained. I say that now. I have no idea what it's going to be like. We'll see how it goes. It'll be out sometime in August, I'll say, because obviously it'll need to be edited, but sometime in August. But it's one I'm looking forward to. It's a conversation I'm looking forward to having because, we've been pretty isolated, all three of us, about what we've played, and so I'm interested to see how we all come together and share our thoughts. So keep an eye out for that. Again, watch.respawnstation.com. But people, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, leave a rating on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And as always, until next time, have a good night, a good morning, and a damn good time.
Bye-bye.